Founder L. Ron Hubbard as a genius and a saint. Detractors call him a fraud, and according to his own son, one of the biggest con men of the century. Whether L. Ron Hubbard is alive or sane is also up for grabs. Our guests are Ron DeWolf, who is L. Ron Hubbard, Jr. He split with his father in 1959, is now trying to gain control of his father's estate in the courts. Also with us is Vaughn Young, a Scientologist for 15 years, a professional writer, now working on an unauthorized biography of L. Ron Hubbard, Sr. Good to have you both with us, gentlemen. Do you think your father is alive?
I don't really know. There will be a court hearing June 10th that will decide that. At that time, the judge will decide whether he's missing or not.
If he were alive, where would he be?
I haven't the foggiest.
Cold weather, hot weather?
It'd have to be warm, probably sea level.
Phoenix?
Could be. That was these old stomping grounds.
Well, if you're watching, we'll give you the first call. 313-872-4040. Everybody hold off until we wait and see if L. Ron Hubbard Sr. calls in. Going back a long time ago, when Dianetics first came on the scene, it was really the first of all the self-help books, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, and it was an enormous bestseller in 1950.
Right. What kind of a man was L. Ron Hubbard Sr. then who wrote that book?
Quite flamboyant. At the time he wrote it in the late 40s, he was pretty broke, and he had told friends and associates that the way to make a million was to start a religion, and that's how it got started. And he wrote the book Dianetics, Modern Science and Mental Health at Bayhead, New Jersey in about a month or so.
You were with him for a long time, involved in Scientology yourself. How would you describe what Scientology is all about and what the Church of Scientology is all about?
Well, to put it in layman's sort of a succinct terms, Scientology says basically that 74 trillion years ago, everyone willed themselves into existence, and through space opera games and science fiction sort of things, they have created this universe. This is a universe created by you, me, and everybody else. And now we find ourselves trapped into bodies, and the goal of Scientology is to get untrapped from these bodies and to return to this godlike state, which is called operating Thetan.
How do you do that?
Through applied philosophy, through sitting down across from each other in chairs with e-meters, which is a skin galvanometer with a meter dial on it, and through answering questions and asking questions, this is supposed to release the various charges and the problems one has had throughout all of these centuries and hundreds and thousands of reincarnations, to get the charge off it as if it was these incidents were a charged battery, and by doing so, this is supposed to return you to this state of high ability.
In print, I've read that you've described your father as the devil, Hitler, total fraud, a con man. It's pretty strong language from a son toward his father.
Yes, but true.
In what way? In what manner?
Well, he was very deeply involved in black magic from early teenage years, which was the use of drugs and hypnosis, as an example. He used to conjure up these demons and thereby plug into them or have them plug into him, and a lot of his early writing was, which could be called spirit writing. And so he was very deeply involved in black magic, as an example, especially from Aleister Crowley, which was an English black magician. And around 1947 or so, he decided that he was the Beast 666 incarnate, because that's what Aleister Crowley was, and he died in 1947.
Supposedly right now about 6.5 million people are involved in Scientology. You think they're all getting ripped off?
I think so.
Talk about that a little bit. In what way are they getting ripped off?
Well, just from a basic viewpoint of it doesn't deliver. That, to me, is basic fraud. It does not deliver. As an example, you get into what is called the operating thetan, or OT, as Scientology calls it, levels. And at various times, even clear through the 50s to present, you should be able to have these abilities of telekinesis, moving objects around. There's even been people who have tried to, like, teletransport, walk through walls, ESP, and this sort of thing, and I've never seen it be able to produce that.
People get happier through Scientology?
Well, you can get happy through having a nice picnic in the park, talking to your boy or girlfriend. And
do some people get happy by going through the auditing sessions and the counseling of Scientology?
I would say so, just simply a matter of talking over one's problems and what have you.
So how can you say, if people are getting better, that they're getting ripped off?
Because, again, they are paying money for claims. They are paying money on claims that my father has made, and, again, that's not being delivered.
Did you make some of those claims yourself when you were in the church?
Sure. I was the director of training for several years, trained a lot of advanced clinical course people, quite literally hundreds, if not thousands of them.
What's your motivation for trying to get control of your father's estate?
The motivation of it is money.
You want money?
Yeah.
You want a piece of the action that he got by ripping people off?
Yes. And
yes?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. It's a
you want...
It's a matter of law, not of morality, and the matter of gathering up the assets. I'm not the only heir.
Now, wait a minute. You say your father was a devil, he acted like Hitler, he was a fraud, he was a drug abuser, he was a person abuser, he's ripped off countless millions of people, and you want a piece of that action?
Yes, as far as the assets are concerned, yes.
Why? Why would you even want to go near that money?
Because I think I can do some good with it.
What would you do with it?
Well, I'd probably use it to get involved in Special Olympics, get involved in helping retarded, handicapped children, and when all of that was done, probably go fishing.
We have a couple of pictures of property that's owned by Scientologists, I guess the Church of Scientology. And they're pretty magnificent structures. Take a look at one on the screen right now. This is located in Florida, huh? Mm-hmm. They had some hearings there last year, Clearwater, Florida, as to whether the church should be there or not. There's another picture, which is a celebrity, I guess a place where celebrities go for their auditing, and this is out in California. What do you think the estate might be worth right now?
We figure that it's in the neighborhood of $1 billion.
$1 billion? Mm-hmm. Would you like to have a house like that?
I don't think my wife would like to clean it.
But if you got some money, you might get a bigger house, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Vaughn Young, you're a Scientologist. What do you think of the arguments, the motivations, the definitions that have been put forth by Ron DeWolf?
Well, a lot has been said, and I congratulate you on bringing out the motivation, because it's actually changed over the number of months. It was to protect my father's estate. At other times, it was to protect the heirs. So now we get down to the nitty-gritty.
Both of those are true.
But really what, there's another aspect to the thing. Mr. DeWolf is part of actually another tradition. You had, a number of years ago, you had Clifford Irving in his biography of Howard Hughes. You had Janet Cook, and she won a Pulitzer for what amounted to be a total and complete hoax. We had the Hitler Diaries. What you have here is the Hitler Diaries Part 2. Mr. Hubbard came out with his best-selling book. It's now on the Time magazine bestseller list, UPI bestseller list, Battlefield Earth, back in October. Mr. DeWolf followed on this. Suddenly, his father was about to moved back into the book-selling business again as a writer.
This is his fiction, his
Right.
science fiction book.
And filed his petition, I believe it was in November, end of October, beginning of November, knowing that his father is private and does not care to appear. In the same way that Clifford Irving counted on Hughes.
Yeah, but let's look specifically. What do you think's going on here?
What I think there is...
Do you think L. Ron Hubbard Sr. is alive?
Oh, yeah. The judge even said it last Friday, that he says, as far as he's concerned, he's alive, and Mr. DeWolf has 3 weeks to try to disprove that. And the judge has already said that he believes it for the communications that Mr. Hubbard has sent in. What there is here is the case of, like, the dearest daddy story, the dearest mommy story of the son who tries to follow in the father's footsteps in whatever way he can. Mr. DeWolf, as far as the research that I've had, problem is a matter of what I would call, the psychologists call transference.
How do you mean that? Now, let's be specific.
That he takes his own experiences and ascribes them to another. Along the way, as far as my own research, I interviewed, for example, I mean, it's not pleasant, but the allegations have been made towards his father. A woman that he knows, he was married to her, that, as she's told me the story, she cried, she shook about the beating that was administered for 13 hours.
Heavens, no.
What's that all about?
This was, I don't know which woman he's talking about, but that's never
Caroline.
occurred. 13 hours? No. No, no.
Well, anyway, I had the police report when the police were finally called in.
What are you trying to say here, though?
What I'm saying is that the things that have been ascribed, the stories that have been ascribed to his fathers, the black magic, the drugs, the beatings, the frauds, are stories from the man's own life.
Didn't the man grow up in the house?
No.
And he
Yes.
grew up in a house for a long, long time.
Right.
I mean, how do you discount all
Well,
of
what
that?
he's trying to say is that, see, medically speaking, from a psychiatric viewpoint, my father's paranoid. So what he's
How
trying
do you
to
know
say
that?
is...
You haven't been in touch with him since 1959.
No, because as far as he's concerned, the whole world is his enemy. He attacks his enemies through a thing called the fair game policy.
But if you haven't talked to your father since 1959, how do you know what the state of his mental health is? Or did you think...
Because we have an extreme amount of evidence to prove it. This is why we brought the petition, to see if he was missing or not. And that's specifically what the petition's all about.
Well, now let's get down to it. Do you think he's missing? Do you think he's insane? Or do you think he's dead?
If he is alive, he's mentally incompetent to handle his own affairs, and we believe he's being manipulated. Now, the first... we don't really know the specific people that are doing it, but we're homing in on it now.
Dennis, an important point on this.
Let me just ask the folks to jump on the telephone. 313 in Detroit, 872-4040, Vaughn Young and Ron DeWolf, who is L. Ron Hubbard Jr. Go ahead.
The judge Friday reiterated again that all this evidence that he's speaking of was thrown out. There's no evidence left. There's nothing to substantiate the case that he brought back in November that has been actually the podium for him going around to the media. The judge says, as far as he's concerned, he's alive, and he's choosing to remain private. And that's what the judge said in the court.
Okay,
Went on across the
let's
wires.
put that on the side for a second. Okay. What do you, how do you describe Scientology to somebody who's just stepped off a spaceship?
Somebody that's just wanted to know?
Sure.
I'd say it's an applied religious philosophy, and the best way to find out is to read a book. It's about people, it's about life, you know, it's about you and me, and you just read about it.
Why has Scientology always been surrounded by controversy?
Because back in 1950, when he published the book, he took on the medical profession of the Psychiatric Institute. And when you said it was the first self-help book, that was important. In other words, you could learn about it yourself. In other words, he undercut it. He carried it out to sort of like in a very democratic fashion. And that made a lot of people very upset. Plus the things that he said about the
well, why has it always been surrounded in controversy? Why are people always moving? Why are churches... Why is Clearwater, Florida having a debate as to whether Scientology should stay or go? Why do people say that they've been threatened, intimidated? Mr.
Fear, force, intimidation, and blackmail.
Mr. DeWolf said he personally beat people when he worked for Scientology. He personally beat them. He personally intimidated, personally got their sex lives, personally threw it up to them to hold everybody in line. Are you saying that what he's saying there is a lie?
What I'm saying...
And are you saying that's a lie?
Yeah.
He said he beat people.
Listen, I can't say as far as what he says he did in 1952 or whatever. I wasn't there. No. I do know...
So there's a possibility that as a Scientology teacher or auditor, he beat people.
If he did, it was in clear violation of all the policies at the time.
And that's the point. What I do
Why
know...
are you laughing?
Standard policy.
Standard policy.
What I'm saying is that since 1959, and you can't blame it on his father, he has committed fraud, he has beat children, he has, and I've got statements as far as administering hallucinogenics to his own children. He's even beat his own son who suffers from Down syndrome.
How do you know that?
Huh?
According to I'm telling you, according to the statements, and the signed statements and the interviews that I have. Now, I have evidence. This man has
I mean,
no
you can't
evidence.
just say that. You have to put some stuff on the table here. You can't just say that.
See, when I'm
you can't
talking
say
about...
that. You can't say that. That's not good
No,
journalism.
no.
You're a journalist.
But he can say it. This is the point, Dennis. He has said it.
I don't know that he said anything.
He has said some outlandish statements about his father.
No, he said he's criticized the church.
Mm-hmm.
He's
I criticize my father,
you
who
criticize.
is the church, as far as I'm concerned, personally.
Okay.
Uh,
So both of you don't have much evidence. You don't have much evidence about your
Well,
father.
I mean-
He doesn't have much evidence about you.
yeah, well...
Do you want the evidence?
Let's tick off some things where people can look up if they want to. Objective. One, you have 70,000 documents in federal court, Washington, D.C. This was a result of Scientology's Operation Snow White in 1977, in which something like 5,000 Scientology secret agents infiltrated 136 government agencies. 11 people are now in jail, including my father's third wife. Just March 3rd, you have up in Toronto, Canada, 100 police officers raided the Scientology main headquarters in Toronto. And
Hey, let me just stop on that for
Yeah.
a second. Why do all these police officers go raiding churches?
I think we need to ask the police that question, actually, because there's nothing that... He says Toronto, nothing came out of it. The whole thing is like folding.
800 cases of
I know you
documents.
don't like...
Let me get some folks in on the phone. Let me take a look at that while we're
That's the
talking.
police report on the wife beating.
Let me take a look at that. Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night?
Thank you. My name's Dan Devaney.
Go ahead, Dan.
Hi. I'm calling from Houston, Texas.
Go ahead.
Okay, my question is for Mr. DeWolf, and it's concerning any possible connections of Scientology to the S training and anything, an offshoot of Scientology.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. Werner Erhard was a Scientologist, and the beginnings of EST are the Scientology training routines, or in Scientology they're called TRs.
Okay, thank you very much. Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night?
Hi, Dennis. This is Steve from Denver.
Go ahead, Steve. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. I have a two-part question. It concerns an article in the magazine called The Realist, which is put out by a fellow named Paul Krasner. It came out about 10 years ago. And in this issue of The Realist, Paul Krasner claimed that you, Mr. DeWolf, were ready to publish this type of expose against Scientology, but at a certain moment you withdrew. And also there was allegations apparently, allegedly made by you that the Justice Department, the government, was infiltrating Scientology. So I was wondering whether, why this didn't come about 10 years ago, and also whether the government may have infiltrated and used Scientology.
I think the government has, for good, sound criminal reasons. And through the period of 1969-72, 10 years ago, when that article thing came out, I got avalanched on, because 99% of what my father ever wrote or said about himself is totally untrue, and one could not perpetrate or keep up the myth that he has put across to people and the membership and the public when all these facts came out. And I wrote what I thought was a very innocuous article, a few minor facts about his life, like he didn't graduate from college, even though he said he was a nuclear physicist, et cetera, et cetera. And so Scientology was extremely powerful in those days, and I was sort of like a voice in the wilderness, so I was pretty well forced to back off of it and signed some documents that said that dear old Dad was a wonderful fellow and all of that kind of thing, just to protect my children and my family, I felt.
Do you fear for your life?
I have at various times.
Do you now?
Much less than I did, because Scientology has always been pretty damn militant.
Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night?
Hi, this is John from Fort Wayne.
Go ahead, John.
I want to ask two quick questions of both gentlemen and then hang up and listen.
Go ahead.
I want to ask Mr. DeWolf, if he's not a Scientologist now, then what religion does he espouse? And I want to ask the other gentleman if he has always been a Scientologist, and if not, what was he before? Thank you.
Okay, very quickly. My father was very deeply involved in black magic, Satan activity, and what have you, because he wanted to be the most powerful being in the universe. Anyhow, because he had proved to me, quote unquote, proved to me that Satan really existed, through just simple logic, I decided, well, then God must exist. So I'm sort of your basic Christian at the moment.
How about?
Well, as far as myself, I got into Scientology in '68 when I was working on my PhD in California. Before that, the earliest thing I guess before that was when I was a Baptist.
Are you on the staff of Scientology?
No, I'm not staff.
Have you ever conducted sessions?
Yes, I have.
You have?
Yes, I have.
So you're an auditor?
Yes, I'm a trained auditor.
And you hook people up with the little meters, and they hold on to the meters, and then you ask them questions, and
Right.
depending upon how they respond to certain lines of questioning, like a lie detector, I guess?
Well, it's a barometric reading. You can do it without the meter, and you're trained to do it.
Then you
without
probe that particular area and try to get people to unblock that which is causing them some confusion.
According to how they feel about it. Very true, yes.
How much
Until
does
they
a session cost?
It ranges from, there's no cost. I've done an awful lot of auditing myself. I was running a drug program, as a matter of fact, in a prison for a long time, just as a volunteer of no cost. On up to, I don't know, you could run $50, $75. I'm not...
300 or better.
Somebody pays $300?
A gentleman called me a while back, $5,735 for 25 hours of auditing.
Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night?
Hello, Philadelphia, I'm waiting.
Hello there, you're on the air.
Okay, hello, my name is Peg Curran. I'm calling from Philadelphia. I'm very curious about something. I was asked to make this brief, and I will. I have been a television producer, local television, for some time now in 3 or 4 different cities, and we have systematically refused to have Scientologists on because they represented a point of controversy. We weren't even sure why. However, every time we aired a Scientology program, we got waves of response. It had to be an equal time problem. However, looking at Mr. Hubbard, seeing him now, I can finally see a troubled child coming out. A troubled, cast off, neglected child. I'm wondering now, what are you trying to accomplish? Do you want your father's money, your fame, or your father's love? What is it you want?
It would have to be both, and also truth. You see, I'm rather interesting here. I've been under like a triple whammy for years. First of all, besides the drugs and hypnosis, because he was trying to make me at the time when I was young the heir apparent. Drug and hypnosis as a kid used on me by him, plus being the son of somebody who's famous or infamous, however you may view it, being the son of L. Ron Hubbard, plus having Scientology. So most people just have Scientology to get out of their head. It took me the last 25 years to slowly sort all that sort of stuff out.
Are you bitter?
No.
Are you angry?
No.
No?
I've been very angry at various times, but I've also found that such emotions and feelings are quite self-destructive to the person feeling them. It doesn't do any good to hate. So I'm really pro-truth. I'd like to see all the facts come out, and as I've said, if I have to expose myself in order to expose the real, honest, true facts of my father in Scientology, then so be it.
Mr. Young, your body language suggests that you're about to go through the ceiling. What's the matter over there?
Oh, I mean, he tells it so convincingly, and there's no evidence. There's no eyewitnesses. There's no documentation that has been presented into the court that has been retained by the court.
Oh, yes, there is.
No documentation has been retained by that court. It's all been thrown out as irrelevant.
It hasn't been thrown out because it wasn't a part of the court proceeding.
Well, now, what are you talking about? What's he talking about? What evidence?
We have an awful lot of evidence coming in on the thing. Now,
Like what? Just give me some specifics here.
I'm talking about let's say his medical records,
Yeah?
the fact that he was a hypochondriac, the fact that he also was using illegal drugs, that he was being manipulated, the fact that he really was paranoid from the evidence that we have, from a pure medical standpoint.
Aren't we all to a degree?
Yeah, I would suppose so.
How old is he now?
he would be 72.
72.
So you see, this petition I filed November 10th, 1982, was to ascertain whether or not L. Ron Hubbard was missing or not. Now, coming up June 10th, the judge will make his final decision on that one point.
But now Friday, didn't he, didn't a
He
letter...
said that he might be, right.
Didn't a letter arrive in court that was
Correct.
Allegedly written in ink that could have only been doctored up by somebody in February of this year, and his fingerprint was there.
Our
and
experts are looking at it.
And it said, well, somebody else has already looked at
You see,
it, right?
everybody thinks this is a one-inclusive, one-shot deal, but this ascertaining whether or not my father is missing or not is only the step one. Now,
Well, do you think he's been kidnapped by the Church of Scientology?
we don't know yet.
But do you think it might be a possibility?
He could be. We do know that he's being manipulated.
When you say that, what do you mean he's being manipulated?
Well, for instance, we have some very recent strong evidence that shows that his funds are being invested in organized crime.
How do you...
Arizona.
Like how so? I mean, tell me about that.
It's in a corporation called, I think it's called Intercap in Arizona.
Well, now, okay, now, I don't know anything about the organization. We want to be very careful about what we say.
But that was a financial organization of my father's, not necessarily that of the Church of Scientology, so we want to make that very clear. The point is that step two, see, step one was to find out if he's missing or not. Step two now, if the court adjudicates him being alive, then we will be filing in the next 3 or 4 weeks, we'll be filing a petition for conservatorship.
I'm just curious, like, if this has sort of been, like, planned out, who plans step one, step two? I'm just sort of curious. It's a bit unusual, you know?
No, well, it's just naturally the basic way to go. You have to, first of all, establish if somebody is alive or not before you can go on to the next thing. There was a great question about him being alive or not, and the only thing that kind of
you think he's kind of alive now?
He could be. Is that once the court adjudicates that he's alive, for crying out loud, everybody and their brother is going to be looking for him throughout the world.
Well, I don't know. Who else was saying he was dead?
Nobody.
Except you.
There was an awful lot of questions. You see, here's an interesting thing.
Yeah, but you were the one that raised this fact of he's probably dead.
That's right.
So who's going to be looking for him that wasn't looking for him before you stepped forth and said, I think he's dead? I mean, everybody, I guess they're still looking for him, those that were looking for him.
But to the people inside Scientology, to the membership, they were saying he was alive, he was well, he was okay.
Right.
But to the outside and other courts, they were saying, well, we've had absolutely no contact with him whatsoever, and if he's proven to be alive in this present court proceeding, then...
But you were born and raised with him. You grew up with him. Isn't it his M.O. if the heat gets a little tough to go lay low for a while? That's what
for years he has. Yeah, like Howard Hughes.
Yeah, but I mean, so this is nothing new. He used to do this all the time when he left New Jersey and went someplace to Arizona.
Right. He was always cutting and running, right?
Yeah, so I mean, what's the big deal? I mean, if he might be just doing that again.
Could be.
Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night?
Hello, this is Robert from Houston, Texas.
Go ahead, Robert.
I would like to get back to some issues. Would either guest please respond to the Scientologist view towards electroconvulsive therapy? And I'll...
Okay, Vaughn Young.
I'd like to. It's something that Mr. Hubbard attacked very strongly, very much in 1950. He found it abusive, he found it medieval, he found it to be absolutely... I mean, there was no words that he could not use that were not strong enough.
We're talking about electroshock therapy?
ECT, yes.
Okay, well, sure.
I'm against it, too.
Oh, I think we all are. All three of us. Well, we agree. Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night?
Hi, my name is Clay. I'm calling from Los Angeles. It's my understanding from what I read in the papers here in Los Angeles that the judge in Riverside County has accepted the documents that were presented there last Friday that Mr. Hubbard is indeed alive, and I'd like to know how Mr. DeWolf will explain that. But secondly, I'm rather curious, as this case has been going on for quite some time, why after 20 years of separation from his father, Mr. Wolf has been pursuing a rather costly, expensive legal pursuit, and I wonder where his finances are coming from.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah. I have no finances.
So the lawyer's taking it on contingency.
Well, I can't really mention that, but I mean, with that sort of arrangement. But the point is that it is not, the judge has not made up his mind yet, and we still have 3 weeks to make up our mind, but it's like a fork in a road. All we really wanted to find out was the decision. Is he legally alive or not? And then we would fork off from one direction to the other.
He told Cable Network News it was 40% contingency.
No, I did not.
Okay, well, fine.
No.
You
No, I didn't mention a question on it.
Now, you got the big interview in, like, Penthouse magazine.
Right.
Now, do they pay you for that interview?
I haven't been paid for any of those interviews. No, of course not. I kind of like that Penthouse interview, especially the picture. Being a Hubbard, I wanted to go for the centerfold, but they said it would take too much makeup and too much foam rubber, so they just take the headshot of me.
Okay, good enough. Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night.
My name is Noelle Biggs, and I'm calling from St. Petersburg, Florida.
Go ahead, Noel.
Hi, I watch the Scientology hearings on television, and I want to know if there really is no such thing as a fair game policy. Why were so many of the former Scientologists who testified so terrified and scared to death?
You got to explain the fair game policy.
Could I please, first of all, because
Explain the fair game policy.
It's been mischaracterized. It really has been. There was, in fact, the thing that's sometimes pulled out is an edited version. There's been a long, long history of every religion to have its own code to be able to expel a member of the group and thereby afford no protection to that member. In other words, you leave the protection of the group, and the Catholic Church has that, the Jews have that, any other group has that. That thing, what that said, and when you read it, you actually read what it says, and what Mr. DeWolf will say, he says that a person could be harmed. No, it says that the person is not afforded the protection of the church. It says may be by others and not afforded the protection of the church. In other words, they left the protection of the fold, and thereby they cannot receive any further protection of the church.
We're talking about physical protection, or are we talking about mental or spiritual protection? When we talk about a church, we usually talk about spirituality.
Well, there's spirituality. At the same time, there have been instances in the past where, like, perhaps legal protection might be brought on behalf of...
Okay, but the question was, why did it appear? Some hearings were held on television?
Any organization that has any sort of a thing like that in the 20th century is really wrong, whether it be internal or external.
The question is, why did the people appear to be scared who were testifying against the Church of Scientology?
Mr. DeWolf has said for a long time...
But why do you think that they were scared?
I don't believe they were scared.
Well, they don't. Are you still on the line? Hello?
Scared?
Are you still on the line?
Yes, that's a joke.
That's a joke.
Right.
Now, tell me, where were these hearings held?
They were held in Clearwater. They were on cable television.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
May 5th, 1982.
May 5th, 1982. And did you? And like, see, we weren't down there. What happened?
Well, oh God, I cannot think. The mayor of Clearwater held hearings that Mr. DeWolf can explain it to you, and people, not people that had been asked to leave, people that had just had a week's vacation and decided to leave the church, were harassed like crazy. All sorts of horrible things. You know, they told them all sorts of horrible things that had happened to them, and these weren't people that were asked to leave, people that had decided of their own accord to leave the church.
Okay, now what do you, you're down there in Florida, and are you in Clearwater?
Right near there.
Yeah, well, what do you think of this whole shooting match?
I think I'm totally against it, and as far as I'm concerned, and from what I've read in the article in Penthouse magazine, I agree that the Scientology should be considered a cult, and I'm totally against it.
Yeah? Okay, thank you. Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night?
Hi, this is Bill from Rochester. I grew up in Rochester, in Riverside, California. And my view of this organization is that, one, they charge a lot of money. I'd like you guys to discuss the kind of fees that people have to incur to get involved in this. Two, they have high-pressure sales. And so that makes me question to what extent they can even call themselves religion. The other thing I'd like you to focus on is, it's obvious that DeWolf has a stake in the outcome of these legal matters, which I haven't been following. What is the potential stake in the outcome of this other gentleman with you tonight?
Okay, very quickly, because we covered a little while ago, from $0 up to $300 an hour, both of those figures were mentioned, $75 an hour. That was a figure mentioned. The stake for Mr. DeWolf is very, very high because he believes the assets could be as high as $1 billion. And Mr. Young will now say what's in it for him.
I get to visit Detroit tonight.
That's one reason, okay. You would like to see the Church of Scientology continue?
Yes, very much so. And as you said, there's an awful lot. There's millions of people who also vote in that direction, a lot of fine people. Mr. Hubbard himself has
He's recently been getting proclamations and commendations from various cities for his work in drug abuse areas and for his other contributions. I think the man has made a contribution, and it should continue. You will always have in an organization a few instances of individuals that get out of hand that are...
Where does he get a proclamation? Who gave him a proclamation for something he did in the drug area?
We had Austin, Texas. There was a proclamation by the mayor there in recognition of his work. Also,
recently?
Yeah, just a couple weeks ago.
Okay. Was there anything in that question we didn't get down to the nail to?
Don't think so.
Okay. Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night?
Hello?
You're on the air.
Okay, I wanted to ask about, I understand that Charles Manson was very involved in Scientology, and that part of his philosophy came, his Satanistic views came from Scientology, and that was the basis of his whole philosophy, and I want to get the comment on that.
Well, interesting. I don't know what the answer is going to be, but I heard the same thing. And Mr. Young is smiling.
No, that one was retracted back in about, corrected back in about 1973. That there was that rumor going around that it was retracted. I even believe Mr. Bugliosi helped out on that. I was not there at that time.
Okay. Any quick comment?
I think that he was, but I don't know about the all-inclusive basis for all of Manson's activities, but I do know he was involved.
You know he was involved?
You know, some of the people that were in and around him at the time have walked and talked, which seems to happen a great deal, even more recently over the last couple of years, but there was some involvement with Scientology.
Hey, let me ask you this question. If your father's A, not alive, or B, not, sane, what do you think will happen to the Church of Scientology?
I don't really know. People have asked me that question before, and quite honestly, that would really have to be up to the members. And the one thing that I think that's important here is that the people can believe as they please, but you can't do as you please. And the problems that I have had and the hypercritical activities that I am against is these actions like fair game, attack the attacker, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as I said, people, if you can believe that in cannibalism as an example, but you can't practice it.
You're not trying to trade on your father now and pick up some loot, are you?
No, I mean, not so far as continuing Scientology, because I don't think it works. But that still, again, under the Constitution is an important point. People can believe as they want, but they can't do as they want.
Okay. 15-second comment, Mr. Young?
I'd just like to say that it's gonna out that this is the Hitler Diaries Part 2, and he's living on the fame of his father and on the good name of his father, and his father is very popular and recognized, as I said, by individuals and cities.
There we go. We thank you both for being with us, Ron DeWolf and Vaughn Young. We're going to take a little break, friends. When we come back on the other side, we're going to talk about the ultimate impersonal computers next on PBS Late Night.